because here in Western countries, especially, they talk about Janab Isa committing any kind of sin, or Maazallah, or Janab Musa, or any other prophet, committing any kind of sin, and they believe that they were not Masoom, they were not perfect, they were not sinless. That's the translation of Masoom. I would say that they were not free from any sin. No, that's not our concept. Our concept is all the prophet, and our prophet has given the number as 124,000. 124,000 prophets Allah sent for humanity, time to time, and sometimes they were on different parts of the world. They came and they propagated the Islam. That's the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what Islam is. If you believe in Islam, that's what you have to believe, that all the prophets, they came and they were masoom. They were sinless. They could not commit any sin because they were created perfect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Allah wants to make somebody perfect, nobody can argue about that, right? And if they are not perfect, then how can people follow? People will get confused that whether his any action was sin, committing sin, maazallah, or which one was correct and which one was wrong. It'll be very difficult to decide. So that's why we all believe, we all Muslims believe that all the prophets, those who came, they were completely free from any sin, and that's what Allah made them, masoom. So that's what they were. So that's our belief. Okay, that's what the actually solid ground on which we have to build our beliefs further on that. Because if you don't believe that they were masoom, or they could not commit any sin, of course they could have, but God made them that they could not do anything wrong, because they were the leader. They were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Allah wants somebody to be masoom, to be sinless, nobody can argue with that. Allah has all the power. So Allah made them masoom, Allah made them sinless, and that's what our belief is. If we don't believe in their masoomiyat, or we can say if they were not sinless, if you don't believe that, then everything falls down. How can you trust them? Whatever they are saying, whether it is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not, it will be very difficult to understand that or get confused. So Allah has made it very clear that all of his prophets were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their character was pure. There was no fault in it, and so that's what we believe. Now, as far as as I mentioned that 124,000 prophet came, we don't know everybody, all the names, but that's what our prophet told us, that total prophet that came all over the world, and maybe universe, we should say, that their number is 124,000, but Quran has mentioned about 26 names, in Quran. So that's what we have. And 1400 years of this Islamic history, when we look at that, and we see that Islam was, let me change the word actually. If we see this 1400 years of the history of Islam, and we see that there is a sad part of it that this history represent, because when Islam should have been the path of these prophets, and Muslims should have followed these prophets to remain on the real Islam. Uh, there was another part came, and especially you can, how should I say that there were kingdom, was created, and they did all kinds of injustice, and all kinds of which is not legal, which is not according to the Islamic values. They perform those kind of actions, and some people, and they claim that they were Islamic authorities, and they were the Islamic representative. And that's a very, very sad part of Islamic history that we will have to look into. And that's the reason why in Islam we have different kind of philosophy, different kinds of thinking, different kinds of religious norms, I would say, that was created. Some of them were created by, of course, Allah's representative, those who were Masoom, those could not commit any sin, those who were real representative of real Islam. But on the other side, we see that when we see the history of Islam, we see that Islam was hijacked by some of the corrupt people, and they claimed that they were representing Islam, and so the history got corrupted by these kind of activities of those people. And that's why a lot of people, they are still confused that what is real Islam and where is real Islam. So my friends, my elders, my brothers, my sisters, I have a suggestion that just follow the Prophet and his teachings, and that's where the real Islam is. Okay, so that's what we will inshallah look into. And the problem that I'm especially raising here is that instead of looking in the mirror of our Prophet, what Islam is, some of the people, they started looking at the behavior of Muslims, especially non-Muslims, when they wanted to see what Islam is, how Islam looks like, what is the Islamic values, instead of looking at the Islam, the Prophet's character, the character of the real followers of Islam, they look at the Islam in the figure of those who were not following Islam, but they were claiming that they were the authorities in Islam, and that creates a big problem. And they what should I say, that they understood indifferently. Obviously, it was not real Islam. So when they looked at the behavior of those people, they thought that Islam is, Ma'azallah, a corrupt religion. It is a religion of terrorists. It is a religion of extremists, because those kings and those people, those who captured the kingdom of Islamic area, and they were corrupt. They were, extremists, I would say. And so when people, they saw them as the corrupt and extremists, they took that from them, that Islam, Ma'azallah, is a religion of terrorism or corruption or extremist. And that's where the problem was created. And that's what we see today in this world, that Islam has been blamed for those actions that were not really representing the values of Islam at all. They were not, those kingdoms, those kings, those people. They had nothing to do with Islamic values, and we can see today's world also. Young generation, especially. I'm talking to young generation. It is not very difficult for you to understand this situation that I'm explaining about the time of prophets. At that time when Islam was literally hijacked by these kings or by these emperors, and they were taking or behaving like God themselves, and they were doing whatever they wanted to, and nobody could say anything against them. We can see that today also. There are few people, there are few people in this world in present time, and they, take that, they are the representatives of Islam. They are, whatever you call them, and their behavior shows that they did not or they do not follow Islamic values. So that's a very easily understandable thing for our new generation to look at that practically. Today's world also, you can see that those their behavior is not according to Islamic values. They are just, for their own selfishness, for their own benefits. They are behaving on the name of Islam, and that's a really pity full situation. But nevertheless, if you really want to follow the Islam, look at the character of our Prophet. That's the basic thing. That's what I would like to emphasize. But the problem that I see in today's world is, and that's what bothers me, and I would like to explain to our new generation, that uh, the you know the people, those who do not know about Islam, they never learn about Islam. They see behavior of these rude people and killing people, killing, on the name of religion, Islam, and they take that impression from them that Islam is, maazallah, a religion of terrorism or extremism. It's not true, and that becomes our responsibility now. Those who are good Muslims, those who are real follower of our Prophet, that becomes our job, our duty, prime duty, I would say, that we have to explain to these folks, those from other religion or the normal human beings, we have to explain that Islam is not what they are seeing, in those people. So we have to propagate the real Islam, the real values of Islam, and that's what I have been doing, throughout my life. And I'm really lucky that I'm involved with colleges, and I got chance to go to several seminars, synagogues, and churches to explain about Islam, and especially probably new generation, they may not remember that, but when 9/11 happened in the United States, 9/11, that was a very, very scary time for us, for Muslims in the United States. Everybody was briefed by media against Islam, against Islam. Ask your parents, they would know that, they can explain to you. It was very, very difficult time for us because the whole media was propagating wrong things, wrong image of Islam, and innocent people, those who don't know about Islam, they were believing in whatever media was saying, and they were very much against Islam. And I worked for college, and I tell you that on that day when 9/11 happened, I was called by my president that, he told me that you will have to represent Islam. He called, everybody in vigil, and he called all the religious folks, and he asked me to represent Islam. Of course, at that time, to be very honest, my mind was, not working at all, because such a big thing happened, and it was being blamed on Muslims, and everybody you talk to, they were uh, talking against Muslims, against Islam, and it was very difficult. But I tell you that that was a miracle in my life, that when my president in college told me that I have to represent Islam, and he called Christian priest and from synagogue also. He had a vigil, uh, like you know that they conduct vigil on that night, and they called the vigil, and he called all the religious leaders, and he told me, because I was in college, so he told me that you will have to represent Islam. And at that time, to be very honest, I was so nervous, because every person you talk to, they were talking against Muslims, against Islam. That was very difficult time we have gone through. And I hope young generation don't have to go through that again. But let me just briefly, for a few seconds, few minutes, I'll explain what happened. That when President told me that you will have to talk about Islam, I said okay, that's fine. I was selected for that. I was thankful, but then I prayed to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and I said, God, Allah, you will have to give me some courage and some thing in my mind that I can go and talk to these people, about Islam. And I tell you, that was a miracle in my life. It was a miracle. And when they called my name, of course, priest came, from Christian church. He explained about, their thinkings, their philosophy. The synagogue people, they came, they explained their, when they called my name, every eye, I still feel that, every eye was looking at me like they were throwing arrows at me. It was very difficult time. But thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that He gave me courage to go before them, and I told them that whatever happened, it was not correct. It was not religious. It was not human. It was not a good thing to happen, because a lot of people, they died in 9/11. And so I told them that's totally against Islamic values. And let me explain, why it is totally against Islamic values. And I wanted to explain, but there was no time there. You had to. But Allah gave me at that time, that kind of feeling, that kind of knowledge, that kind of courage to speak to them. I said, whatever happened, that was a terrorist act. There is no doubt about that. Innocent people, to kill innocent people was a terrorist act. It was not recommended, or not even liked by Islamic values. Islam totally says very much against it. And I said, I'll prove it from the Quran. Quran says, Allah says in Quran, that if you kill one human being without any reason, you kill the whole humanity. And on the other side, Quran says that if you saved one person, uh, you saved the whole humanity. And that's what Islam says, and Islamic values are, that if you kill one person without any reason, then you kill the whole humanity. And if you saved one person, then you saved the whole humanity. The whole humanity. How many people we are in this world, If you saved one person, it's like you saved the whole humanity. And if you killed one person without any reason, Islam says that you are responsible for killing the whole humanity. It's such a serious crime. And I said that that's the Islamic values. And those who killed these people, They were not Islam. They were not. They had nothing to do with Islam. Let's put it that way. Maybe their names, they call them whatever they call their names, but they were not Muslim according to the Islamic values. And I said, this is Islam. And I'll explain sometimes later also. Right now, I don't want to get you bored with my lecture. But that's the kind of situation. That the reason I brought it today is that you will come across the situation anytime if you are living in these countries, and you need to ask help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and definitely there will be help provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, that's okay, so that's what Islamic values are. Islam is not a religion of terrorism or extremism, but we need to follow the character of our prophet, our last prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we will be uh, knowing and following the real values of Islam. So that's very, very important. So now, when we don't follow, that's the problem. When we don't follow the Prophet, that's a very straight path given to us. That the character of our Prophet is the religion of Islam. There is nothing any side of it. That's the path. That's the real path. If we follow our Prophet and Quran, that's the real path. And if we follow that, then we should not be afraid of that is the path of Islam. When we divert from that, left or right, then it becomes, a problem. And then even Muslims, those who call them Muslims, if they deviate from that path, they become terrorists, or they become, um, they become valueless, really, as far as Islam is concerned. So we have to stick to our Prophet's life, Prophet's saying, Prophet's teachings, and stick to that. So that's what Islam is all about. And that is what Islam means. And by the way, what is the meaning of Islam? The word Islam. Islam is a Arabic word, and the meaning of Islam is peace. Peace. So you cannot attach anything to peace, anything, irrelevant to peace. Peace is peace. There is no doubt about it. And Islam is peace. And if there is anything that is against peace, that is not Islam. As simple as that. Islam always goes with peace. Okay. And Islam, another meaning of Islam would be surrender to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He cannot command to harm anybody. Anybody. Even in Quran, Allah says that you cannot harm any leaf of a tree, any animal, or any insect, or any human being. You cannot tease anybody or harm anybody. You cannot pick a leaf from a tree without any reason. That's what Islam is. That's perfect. Islamic values, and that's what we have to follow. And that's what Islam is all about. So if you know the real meaning of Islam, you can tell people and you can convince them that is what Islam is. Islam does not like injustice done to anybody, not even human being or animal or even plants or vegetation even. So that's the and Islam. Obviously, you all know that Islam does not differentiate between any human being. There is no black and white or yellow or any kind of male or female or young or old. There is no discrimination in Islam. There is no discrimination at all. And that's the beauty of Islam. and that should be propagated rather than these kind of things that usually propagated by media. And we are the representative of Islam, especially in these Western countries. And it becomes the responsibility of us, our responsibility. Allah has sent us here for some reason. And the reason is He has given us responsibility to represent Islam. So first thing we have to do is build our own character. We need to build our own character so that we can say to these people that we are Muslim. We should not be conveying any wrong message about Islam or defaming Islam before these innocent people or those people, those who do not know about Islamic values. We should not be posing them as Islam and behaving against Islam. That's the main thing, we need to learn, because we are ambassador of Islam and we have that responsibility. So to my young folks, young generation, my sons and my daughters, I would say that you are ambassador of Islam. You have big responsibility, big responsibility. Islam depends on your image, your faith, your behavior. So you need to be a representative. Allah has sent us as a representative of Islam, and talk to your parents that how much we have suffered. I know that when I came to this country, it was very different at that time. Very few people were here, those who were Muslim. And we have gone through a lot of sacrifice. You can ask your parents, you can ask your elders how much sacrifice we have done for that, and you will realize that. And nothing you can achieve without sacrifice. So that's very clear. You know that. You are a young generation. You go for exam every time, every semester. You give exam. You cannot win the game without any hard working. So the same thing applies here also. So we have sacrificed a lot of things for being Muslim and keeping you Muslim as well. So please, talk to your parents, stay on right path, stay on a guidance provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the real test in this world. This life is very short life. It is a very short life. It is a test, just like you go to examination hall for your exam, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever the examination the time is, you spend there, and that's what this world is for us. It is the examination time. We spend here our life, and then if we pass, then our real life will start, and that's what Quran says, and that's what Islamic values are. But unfortunately, we see that instead of looking at the values of Islam and examining or testing or checking Muslims with those values, the way has been turned upside down. And when they see the behavior of Muslims, character of Muslims, they evaluate that as the Islamic values. And that's the wrong thing that is happening right now. Right now, it's happening that instead of recognizing Muslims, the human being Muslims, with the values of Islam, they are doing opposite. Those who are non-Muslims, I'm talking about their impression. Non-Muslims, when they see the character of Muslims, those who are not following Islam, and they think that that is Islam. And that's what the problem, especially in Western countries, are. And that's why we see that the media propagate wrong image of Islam, because they go to the wrong source of seeing that Islamic values, and that's what is happening nowadays. And we see that, and you see that. It is nothing hidden. You see that what is real Islamic values and what is being propagated by the media. It's totally doesn't make any sense, but that's what they are doing, and that's what people they are believing when they hear from media. That's what they are believing. So that's a problem. Just let me see this one.